2020 has been, sorry, can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me, or am I good?
Yes, I'm hearing
Okay,
you clearly.
right, perfect. Thank you. So 2020 has been a unique and challenging year for, God's church. And 2021 will come with its own uncertainties. We've had challenges in our families and our church related to COVID, such as, creating job loss, reduced working hours, and reduced employment prospects. The stewardship department had the vision of providing our members and friends with hope for these troubled times. It's our hope that this discussion will provide some tips and knowledge to ease the challenge of the times and help change the trajectory of your family's finances and your personal finances. Uh, we need the financial wisdom now more than any time before, and we believe that there is nothing that we cannot do without God. The persons on this panel tonight have a wealth of personal stewardship related and financial experience. And so we want this discussion to be real and interactive. Okay, so grab your pens and your pencils and your notebooks and be ready to participate. So we'll be taking questions from the chat. If you are not aware, we are streaming live on the website, on our church's website, as well as Zoom. And so we are looking for all your comments and questions as we go along. And you'll have the opportunity to speak as well during our open mic segment. Okay, so here I have with me for our panel discussion is Elder Donald McIntyre, Sister Carleen McCullough Samuels, Wayne Queensborough, and Elder Andrew Porteous, and Sister Jody Ann Manhertz. Okay, we do have two other faces, Sister and Brother Bailey, and we're glad to have you here. We do welcome all our faces and all our comments and questions. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Okay, so why is it important? So we're talking about planning for your financial year 2021. It's very crucial. We all know how important it is to manage your money and carefully manage your money, prudently manage your money. So I want us to all talk about this, right? Why is it important for us to set financial goals for this year, for any year for that matter? Talk back to me. Let me know what you're thinking.
Well, I think we should start off by talking about a proper financial foundation. And what do I mean by that? If you were to build a house, do you start at the base of the house or the roof of the house? I'm sure everybody will say you'd start at the base because it makes your foundation stronger. So for us as Seventh-day Adventist Christian, the base of our house is return of a faithful tithe and offering. And then the next level is what we call protection. What this means is that if you were to become disabled or you have any health issues, you need to protect your income. The next level is debt management, and this is where you can look to reduce your debt and your liability so that your house is stronger. Another level is emergency fund. Everybody should have some kind of emergency fund, and individuals would have experienced this through this COVID. If you had an emergency fund or you didn't, your finances would have been impacted. And then the other level is investments. Investments can be like your home and other investments, which we can talk about later. And of course, no house is complete without a will. We can talk about some of these more in detail. So I think we should start off our talk that way by talking about a foundation.
Jessica?
Yeah.
I would like to add to that, to put it on a spiritual plane as well. Everything that we do with whatever we have has to have God expects us to be responsible. Notice that in the feeding of the 5,000, after feeding all of these people, what was left was gathered up. He made sure that the place was kept neat and tidy, even though it was out there in the in whatever it was. And the food, I don't know what they did with it, but the food that they gathered up was placed in a basket and carried away. And so God expects his people to be careful in everything that they do, everything that he has given to them. He doesn't want it to, he doesn't want waste. He wants carefulness, and he wants us to be responsible citizens. So with what Sister Carlin has said, it's a great foundation to start from where you're supposed to start, but then methodically move from there. Through responsibility, build your house.
Thank you. And on that note, I want to take just a second to have a quick prayer so that God can lead us in this discussion.
Sure.
Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this third segment for the afternoon to talk about important, pertinent things pertaining to your people. I pray that you will go before us and make the crooked ways straight. Inspire our words is my prayer for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen.
So thank you. So we have a practical platform and we also have a spiritual platform, right? For me, I think it's important to set financial goals, especially for 2021, because things are unpredictable and we don't know what will happen, or not even just for 2021, for years to come. For those persons who were planning ahead, saving for a quote unquote rainy day, putting things in place for, as Sister Carlene mentioned, for, the unfortunate situation of death of a family member. Our financial planning is important so that those things do not catch us too much of a surprise financially, that we're better able to pivot or be agile in situations where money is concerned, that we're not strapped. So for example, if we need to travel for the death of someone, do we have money saved away to make that travel for your entire family, right? So that you can be there with the rest of your family members to mourn. We want to focus on what's important in a particular moment instead of focusing on being strapped for cash. Right. So very, very crucial to put those things in place. Does anybody else have anything else to say about financial planning?
Yeah,
I would just, oh, sorry.
Yes, sorry, Jody. Yeah, I'd say, so far it's well said. And so Sister Carlene laid some practical ways to do, to set that foundation. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to hear all of that and kind of reckon with where you are in terms of your finances and being able to achieve that. And so setting a goal is important, because at least if you can't build on all the steps that she mentioned, you got to start somewhere, right? And so you may not, for example, have 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund, but maybe you start with 1 month, and then you start building. It's important that you cannot do all of them all at once, or else you won't get anywhere. And so if you try to invest and you try to do all of these different things at the same time, it's going to crash, right? And so it's important to set that goal, because a lot of times we hope to be in a certain place, but hope is not a plan, right? And so when you set the plan and the goals, you can then systematically start trying to achieve them one by one to get to the place where the foundation is fully set. And then you can maybe start investing and doing some of the other things that come later on.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Jody, and by the way, everyone, Wayne and Jody-Ann are both from the Young Adult Ministries of Apple Creek. So, we're trying to do some partnerships here, and hopefully some of the information would have helped to strengthen their demographic as well, the young people. And we do have questions from the young people from the Adventist Youth team that we hope to be touching on this afternoon as well. Jody?
Well, I don't want to repeat everything everybody has said, because we've done such a good job with that. But just to say, like what the Bible says, without a plan, the people perish. So that's the important part of even making a plan. If you don't have a plan, you have no way to go. You're just all over the place. Um, Wayne touched on what I was going to talk about, is to say start one thing at a time. And I usually say pick a struggle. So I would pick the one thing that I'm going to focus on, because I have to look at what my finances is, can't touch every single thing. So I pick one thing that I'm going to focus on. If it's debt repayment, then I'm going to do debt repayment. If it's going to be, I'm focusing on savings, because sometimes it's hard to do both. Right now, I'll talk about myself being a single person and a homeowner. You can't touch everything, right? So it's picking what you're going to choose to focus on for that year, for that first couple of months to knock out. And then, because you want to make smart goals that are reachable, that you can achieve, so that you're not overwhelming yourself and feeling like you're failing. So you have those small victories that keeps you going.
Yeah. Yeah. And in keeping with, does anybody have anything else to say on that topic? Right. Okay. So in keeping with making those smart goals and planning ahead, we have this concept called budgeting, right? So I want to know, I know some families, some individuals don't use a budget. How important do you see a budget? How important is a budget to you? And why do we feel like families and individuals should use it for goal setting?
So it's very important to me, and specifically after last year, when Carrie and I sat down and seriously did a budget. It's a very tedious exercise at first, but it allows you to have insight into where you're going. So imagine when you go into your car after a snowstorm. Nobody drives off without cleaning the windshield or reverses out of your driveway. So for me, that's what a budget is. It allows me to see, it might not be 500 feet ahead, but it allows you to see at least how you can safely proceed for the next little while of the journey. So, and it also brings to light things that you didn't know. A lot of us spend money that we don't know about. You know, if we added up all the small expenses like bank fees or, I don't know, you know, going to Tim Hortons or, you know, incidental costs that we think are negligible, when you add them up over a prolonged period, then you realize, oh, we spent like $300 in the last 2 months on takeout. And you don't realize that day to day, but once you roll it up into a budget, then you will find where your pitfalls are.
Yeah.
So a budget can give you a snapshot, as Andrew is saying, into your spending. We know for most individuals, your money is coming in one way. Some individuals are fortunate that their money is coming in from more than one source, but your money goes out a lot of different ways. Like, I mean, and it, in creating a budget, you can see what your fixed expenses are. So those are the expenditures, the money that you're spending that you can't really change that much, because the an example of that would be like a mortgage payment, or maybe your rent or a car payment. A variable expense, as Andrew just gave an example, would be like food. You go purchase food and you're paying for gas or whatever. You may budget a certain amount, but it varies depending on how far you travel. I know that during this COVID time, some people working from home, but you do use your car sometimes, I think. One way, like for individuals, I don't know if anyone did this, was if you contact your insurance broker, they could actually reduce your insurance amount, because we're not driving as much. So that's one thing you can do to get back some of your money that's going out. Another way is like individuals that have their cell phones or whatnot. Every so often you can contact the cell phone company and say, hey, what better plan do you have? You know, so that you can save some of your money. When you go shopping, there are certain items that you use in your home that they're stable things that you use, like toilet paper, dishwashing liquid, soap, things like that. I don't know if you know this too, but the stores they have their sales on a quarterly basis because they want to meet their quota. So if you buy things, certain staple things, when it's on sale, and if you're able to buy more than one quantity, you put it aside so that when the next sale comes around, you're buying it on sale. And so that's one way that you can try to pull back some of your money that's going out. I'm sure others have different examples, but those are just a few.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else?
So I recently had to start budgeting. I'm still learning how to do that. Not so much the budgeting, but the discipline that comes along with budgeting. Because you can budget, but it means nothing if you don't actually follow what it is that you set out. So it's a discipline part that's still a little rocky. Yeah, so I've started to budget, and it has given me, like I said, an insight into what are the fixed, what are the variables, what I can change, what do I need to do to lower it, and where my savings are gonna live, and things like that. So it's been so important, especially, like I said, as a new homeowner, which is when my finances began to be even so much more real, to ensure that I'm sticking within the budget that I've made, so that I'm not overwhelming myself, or I'm not putting out more than is coming in, because that can happen really easily. So a budget becomes very, very, very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that I'd add is, and like you said, Jody, I've had trouble at times sticking to the budget as well, right? And so the discipline, like you said, is very important. I'd also say, budget is a point, it's a framework that you set up that can change over time. So as things change, feel comfortable in changing it accordingly, but also make sure that you build flexibility in there, right? Like, you don't want to be budgeted to the point where you have no flexibility to your lifestyle, because the things that you like to do, you're going to do them anyways. And so you want to make it as realistic as possible, so it gives you the ability to do some of the things you enjoy while still tackling the must-haves, or the fixed expenses that you can't get around.
Yeah. And I guess for me with that is sometimes there are seasons, right? There is seasons for spending, there's seasons for savings, there are seasons for being balanced in your budgeting and your expenses. So for example, if you have a goal, you have, and I mean, other people will be different. They still want to have that balance, even though they want to save for a particular goal, for example. But for me, if I have a specific goal that I am trying to meet, whether it be to pay a debt down or to save for a particular thing, I'm gonna batten down and do it and get it out the way and move along. Because what that does, if and it's not to say that everybody has that opportunity to do so, because you may have other expenses or more expenses than, for example, I would. But if I am planning to do something, sometimes I tend to want to shorten that window or shorten that time by really just, I'm going to tighten my budget and spend less on the things that I love to spend on, to meet this financial goal within a shorter space of time. And that's okay. Because what that does, in my opinion, is allow you to move on to another goal sooner, rather than instead of prolonging one goal and then starting one later on down. Or maybe it may allow you to take on two smaller ones at an earlier time instead, if you were to do it that way. Okay. Just 1 second here. I think we're having some issues with being accepted to the meeting. Here we go. Thank you for that. Okay, I think we're good. So just a quick welcome again for those who are just joining us, and those who are on the live stream. I think I heard that you weren't hearing sound for a while, so just welcoming you all. And thank you again for joining. We're talking about planning our finances for life for 2021. Elder Andrew says budgeting can seem restrictive at first, but it's actually a liberating process. And it definitely is, because sometimes, as was mentioned in our discussions previously, that, you know, we're spending money and we're not actually tracking where the money is going. You'll find that you're spending way more than you actually need to. And it helps you to keep track of everything, especially those who, as a matter of fact, for either or the individuals who have one or multiple streams of income. So you know where things are going, how things are being distributed, what accounts they're going into for those who have multiple accounts, and to ensure that you are meeting your goals in a timely manner. Okay. So thank you for that. I do recognize that there was a question or in the chat from Camilla and Mark. We will touch that in just a second, okay? How important is tithing as a part of your goal setting? How important is tithing as a part of your goal setting?
For me, I'll just go here. So for me, it's very important. It's the first thing that is taken care of, and I kind of built that habit a few years ago, because I found that once that habit was solidified, everything went smoothly. And when you make it a habit, it also becomes a reminder. It's kind of like Sabbath. Every Sabbath, you're kind of reminded of creation and God's love for you. When you tithe and you habitually tithe, you constantly remind yourself that God is sovereign. So for me, that's where it starts, and it's a non-negotiable. It comes out automatically. I would say, I don't automate it, but it's automatically my first thought process when I get some form of income.
With that, I would like to second what Andrew just said. And that is, just as Carlin had said originally, you got to start from the foundation. God is the foundation of our lives. And also, it is a signal to God that you're willing to partner with Him. Now, we can set on a journey, especially throughout life, financially, unless God is a part of our plan. He promises to protect whatever we have. He promises to protect us. It's understandable that we get up in the morning and we assume that we're going to come back home. It's understandable that we're going to go to sleep at night and we're going to wake up next morning.
Yeah.
Who does that for us? Who keeps that going?
Mm-hmm.
So God has promised to partner. If we partner with Him, He will bless you. He will always bless us, and many times we'll come up against situations where we are stretched and you don't know where to go. The money isn't fitting into what our needs are. And who is going to protect you from that frustration? Because He has said that if you are faithful to Him, you'll be surprised how He will open the windows of heaven and pour you out blessings. Many blessings that you don't even realize that you have. And of course, sometimes we want to add 1 + 1 = 2. But God is the only person who can defy mathematics and make 1 + 1 = 3. Forgetting about our personal logic, He does everything for us.
And to add to what Elder Max says, God is the owner of everything that we have. He's the one who gave us the strength to be able to wake up each morning in our right minds. He's the one who gave us the strength to be able to go and work and function, and the talents that we have to do our work, is the one that gave it to us. So when I hear about tithing, people always say, I'm giving back God my tithe. No, you're not giving Him anything. He's the one who gave us. We are returning a portion of what He gave us, which all he asks is a small amount, which 10% plus some offerings, and the rest of it, he gives it to us to help in other areas as well. So I know we'll talk about that some more too.
Okay. Anyone else before we move on? Okay. So we know that tithing is important, it's integral. And a matter of fact, I was talking to someone some time ago, and there are books of people who are not even Christians, for that matter, who do believe in that setting aside of that 10%. So this is something that has been happening in and out of our church. But for us as believers, we know why we do it. We do it for the support of our ministers. We do it for the furtherance of the ministry of our church, evangelism, all of that, to the maintaining of the ministers. And we won't go into that, but we have a responsibility as Christians, because God has asked us to return that which He has given to us. There's just this one thing. There's this one text from Ellen G. White that says something about. It says something about it's just an acknowledgement that He is the giver of all things, and it was mentioned. So I won't go into it. So we'll just skip over that and move on. So I have another question after that, and it has to do with some of the challenges. So what are some challenges that individuals and families face in achieving their goals? So it can be personal or for those who have experienced or have had clients that have had this issue, whatever you wanted to suggest. I have a message here. It says from Elder Andrew, budgeting does not have to be technical. There are many resources online that show simple and more complex budgeting systems that are done by everyday people. YouTube alone is a great resource for personal and family budgeting. So just keep that in mind. There are resources available, and the Stewardship Department is also planning to provide those to you in the coming weeks. Okay, so what are some challenges that individuals and families have in achieving their goals? I think back to what we were saying, and I'll just add my 2 cents, is that one of the challenges in achieving their goals, and by goals, financial goals, are the excessive rainy days that they probably didn't plan for, or lack or a lower income. When we have lower income, we are incapable of saving as much, unfortunately. And of course, there are ways around it, and I will probably end up touching on that soon. But I wanted to hear from everyone here. What are some challenges that individuals and families face when achieving their goals, their financial goals?
I don't know if this will fit squarely into that particular question, but for me, I'm inclined to think that our people, as Christians, we should be industrious. A lot of us love to farm out a lot of the things that we could have done in our homes, sometimes on our cars, to those who make a lot of money. So some of these people who we ask to do jobs for us make a lot more than we are making. And there are times when there are some things that we can do for ourselves, but sometimes we're just not too inclined to do it. I like to work on cars. I like cars. And I know that I've saved a lot of money doing my own work. Then I also work around the house. I do things that normally, if I should call in a plumber or a painter or somebody else, I would be paying a lot of money. And I save all of that. I might just have to buy material. And if I know that I have a particular goal, financial goal, I will have to use myself to help me reach that goal as well, and do some of the work myself. But there are other things that we can do. We can discipline ourselves. There are some people who are very gluttonous for certain things, and they must have. They must have this. They must have that. But sometimes we need to scale back, discipline ourselves. Um, they have a term they use in Jamaica. I don't know if you all know that. They say sucking salt to a wooden spoon. Which means that you go through some difficult times and you kind of deny yourself certain things which are not necessarily important. Something that you would like, but you don't have to have it. Sometimes we got to do some of these things to reach our financial goals.
Yeah.
I think touching on some of the challenges that we face. I'm looking at my situation a few years back, I got laid off from work, right? And so obviously you don't plan that or see that coming. So that kind of gets in the way of some goals that we certainly had at the time, because we were down to one income for a period of time. Something more recent, my mother passing away last year. And, thank God for her. She planned her business and she had her plot planned and all of these kind of things. So there wasn't so much of an impact financially that my siblings and I had to come up with money in that regard. But my mom was the sole caregiver for my kids. And so now we had to start paying a lot more, if anything, than what we were paying before. And so that changes the final financial picture of what we're perhaps we're doing before, or what we might be able to achieve going forward. Certainly because my wife wasn't working at the time. She decided to take some time off after finishing school. And so, those are some of the challenges that we faced, even in deciding for her to stay home for a period of time and being down to one income. That was, certainly some challenges. And so through some of the things that I've seen, and COVID, obviously, maybe some of you will touch on that again, but that's certainly a big challenge. One of the things to overcome some of this is, like we talked about before, is planning. Right. And so we were able to absorb some of the highs and lows, or the challenges, because by and large, we're more savers than spenders. And so we were able to have kind of something sitting around to kind of help in those kind of difficult times.
Yeah. Thanks, Wayne. Great points. So we have some in the chat here. And that I wanted to read. So Beverly G says some of the impediments that we face when trying to achieve our goals, sudden change in our lives, such as income loss or loss of a job. Not everyone is as talented and gifted as Elder Mac, who can do things on their own. I must say, I always brag to my friends, I can change a tire. So really, I don't need my CAA if a car stopped on the road with me, right? And it's just being around my dad often. And I decided that, you know what, I can learn some of this. So there are things that I am able to do around the house that would or on my car, that would save me a buck. I do have CAA because I will not be doing that all the time. But it is definitely a skill that I take pride in. So Ali Galaxy 820 says, sometimes we are influenced by society and friends to live outside of our means. So that impedes our ability to meet our goals. And we have here, Garfield says, life and disability insurance are also essential to planning for the future and creating a safety net. And I think we had touched on it in some of the statements that we made earlier in the conversation, and Wayne as well, that these plannings, our financial planning also has to do with insurance. And having these things in place as a safety net for not just ourselves, but our families.
Can I touch on that, since somebody brought it up? I wasn't going to go into that yet. Yes, there are different types of insurance out there. And the cheapest ones are the ones that people usually buy, which are term insurance. And by virtue of the name term, people always think that they're covered and they buy it and put it in their drawers, and they don't realize that it ends
has
at
an
a certain
expiry.
time.
Right.
So term insurance can be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and the price go up. There are other types of insurance that are available that you can actually save within it. Save, and when you get critically ill, you can have critical illness within it, so that you can have funds available, not necessarily for you, but you can imagine if you became critically ill, what happens to your family income.
Right.
If you have that, then it now alleviates some of the stresses that we've been talking about, that you don't have to worry about your kids paying your mortgage. If you need to go out of the country for treatment, well, we can't do that now. You can do that. And if your spouse needs to be off work for a period of time, that fund covers you. Also, there's also a saving, there can be a saving component in it, so that when you reach to retirement age, you can withdraw funds from it as an income.
Right.
If you start, you can start with it when your child is actually 15 days old. And you can imagine when your child is ready to go to school, you can actually give them funds out of it to be able to pay for their school. If they don't want to use it, they can leave it and pull out of it when they're ready to buy a house. And there's funds in it too, that if you were to pass away prematurely, your family is covered. Within it, you can also have insurance that is term insurance, but it can be what they call renewable and convertible. So this would cover like your mortgage, because mortgage is for a period of time. So as I said before, there's a lot to financial planning, and for each individual, it's different. We're just giving you some ideas, and we can talk about some of those at another time.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, that's just it. That's another way of planning financially. And that has to do with setting aside money on a monthly basis to pay for these services, these insurance policies, and critical illness, which, by the way, is very different. It's kind of insurance, and I won't get into it because I'm not the specialist, but critical illness, correct me if I'm wrong, Sister Carlene, it is different from a regular insurance. Critical illness is for as was mentioned of Sister Carlene, but also for example, cancer. Say, for instance, you come down with cancer, and you cannot work, and you need to spend time in treatment. That critical illness now kicks in, because it's there for purposes such as that, to cover your expenses and to cover you, for example, even when short-term and long-term disability is either not enough or it has run out. So there are many different things that are available to you.
And there are products out there actually that cover for 25 different illnesses, and also for children as well. They have extra ones for children. So depending on what the illness is, even if the person has already been diagnosed with an illness, they can still be covered. So there's no need for individuals to not have some kind of a coverage.
Absolutely. And the younger you start, and this is the last point before we move on, the younger you start this insurance, because we feel as though we're invincible as young people. We feel as though we can never get sick. We will never get sick. I run miles a day and I'm going to be great. That's definitely not the case. I actually have an uncle of mine who used to box professionally for Jamaica, and he came down with some random cancer that almost took his life. And, God, thankfully he didn't. But the point is that, we think we're invincible, and we're really not. It can happen to any one of us. And starting at an earlier age in this insurance, getting insurance and creating these safety nets for you will end up being cheaper for you in the long run, because the older you are, you will be rated higher as higher risk. And you will end up having, you may or may not end up having pre-existing conditions prior to being rated for your
Mhm.
insurance, and that means your insurance rates will be higher.
Mhm.
So your work insurance is not sufficient, basically, is what we're telling you. There are other ways that you can safeguard yourself. All right.
Sorry, Jessica. I just want to
Someone,
add to that.
yeah, sure.
You know, some of the wealth building strategies that people do is, you know, putting insurance on their kids, for example. And so, you know, like to your point of it being cheaper when they're younger, you put that on, but you know, if God willing, they live to a longer age, their children can then benefit from these policies, right? And so you can take out perhaps even higher amounts because the insurance is lower, and then it's a way for you to kind of self-insure or transfer wealth to future generations, because now your kids' children have insurance policies that they can take from.
That's
And
right.
then there's another approach as well for example, perhaps pooling with other family members and insuring someone who's a little more advanced in age. And so the policy now will naturally be a lot higher. And if you share it amongst, you know, various family members, you then are able to take that money and help with perhaps the first funeral expenses, and then have some more to kind of move forward. So there's a lot of kind of things you could do with insurance. And it's one of the biggest vehicles that people use to create wealth. And a lot of it is really because it's not taxable, right? And so you think about, you know, you make $1 and you lose 30 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents, whatever the case is for every dollar you make. When you're looking at insurance, it's not taxable, right? And so this is a vehicle that is used largely to create wealth and transfer wealth.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we have one comment. People need to learn to live in their means. Suck salt and tie your belt, right? Similar to what Elder Max said. Okay, so I want to open up the conversation to everyone now. I want to open up the conversation. Oh yeah, and Beverly G says that pooling of funds for insurance is a great idea. Okay, absolutely. So I want to open up the conversation to everyone. Please, if you would like to comment, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself, or raise your hand, I should say. Actually, unmute yourself. You could do it yourself, or *6 to unmute, and you can make your statement. So, you know, we've all had some kind of challenge financially at some point. And I want to hear from all of you, or any of you, how has God helped you to solve these problems? So you can go ahead, shout them out really quick from the panel or from our viewers. Please let us know. How has God helped you, or how has God made a way for you to overcome your financial challenges, or to help you meet a financial goal? Whatever the case is, we'd like to hear from you. So I'll open it up for just a few minutes. So get in while you can before we move on.
Well, I could start the ball rolling here. In our case, we budgeted. We started to budget, and we were very disciplined to keep to that budget all along. Yes, there are times when we stepped out of it and got some things which we never budgeted for, but it was within reason, and we stuck to it all the way through. And I'm not saying that we have become rich or anything, but we never had any anxious moments, so to speak, nor did we run into any deep trouble. Whatever issues that came up, we were able to meet them, and we give God praise and thanks and glorify His name for having kept us all through these years.
Yeah. Great. Anyone else?
Okay, I can go. I think the question was how. Can you repeat the question though, Jessica? Sorry, so I can make sure I'm answering right.
How has the Lord made a way for you, basically? Challenges that you've had financially, how has God helped you to overcome them? And after you, Jody, I will let Miriam Alexis Warren speak.
Okay. I think, God works sometimes before you knew, before you even had plans. He's put people in your life before you even knew that you needed them. I got in touch with a financial advisor a couple years ago, and that's what kind of put me on the path to home ownership, to make sure that I could do what I needed to do, was because I had that person in my back pocket helping me to make the right decisions. Teaching you how to invest your money and where to invest your money. And I never thought of that earlier. And sometimes you think, sometimes you just need, you can start, if you don't have to be like, oh, it's too late now. It's never too late. Just start somewhere. So when I was in the process of purchasing a home, which is probably the most difficult or challenging financial decision I've had to make, then, I had friends like Jessica who would say, you have to tell God exactly what you want. Tell him exactly what you want him to. I made a list of, this is the kind of home that I want, this is where I want it to be, and this is how much I want my mortgage to be, because that was obviously very important, so that it was matching income and that you weren't overspending. And I have to tell you that he met all of those goals, even down to the very last moment when we were deciding which home to buy, and we're going back and forth about how much a down payment should be, yada, yada, yada. The number that my mortgage came down to was exactly what I asked God for. And it wasn't a mortgage that was actually within my reach prior to that. We were thinking that, we couldn't do it, but, God came through. So when you trust God and let him know exactly what your desires are, he will come through for you. So I thank him so much, because the home that I have, I always say God gave it to me, because getting to that point was difficult, and exactly what I asked him for is exactly what he delivered on.
Excellent. Just brings tears to my eyes, honestly. I know I'm a sucker for happy endings, and we give God thanks. Miriam Alexis Warren, do you want to unmute?
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, it's Marlon. It's Miriam's iPad. So I just want to share as quick as possible, and hopefully this can be helpful to others as well. What I've faced, what I've had my challenges with being single, and then Miriam came along. So try to be quick how I can wrap this up. I was at a point where I was about to claim bankruptcy. And I like to say this when I share my testimonies, to let people know what got me into debt was what got me. And then when Miriam joined me, got us both out of debt. So I totally agree with the tithing, very important. 2008, I was out of a job for about 2 years. There was no means of tithing. And then had a home in Oshawa, first townhome, struggled with that, had to move out of it and rent it out. I had 2 tenants, one went in, one came out. I jumped in, jumped out, gave another one, just to keep it going. And just to share something very important about that. I was at a point where the mortgage payments were behind, and the bank sent me a letter to say, basically, they can do a foreclosure, they can sell the house, get their money. I was, I don't know, 3 mortgage behind. God sent someone I knew at the time. I was attending the Sunday church in Oshawa, and this gentleman came, prayed with me, gave me some money, said to me, you're not going to lose your house. So, just to fast forward, I wanted to lose that house, and I wanted to hold on to it. I wanted to sell it. I wanted to get rid of it. I struggled. I cried. I said, God, help me to keep it. Just let me get out of it. But God helped me. We kept it. I kept it. Miriam joined me. We spent a year in that house. We did work like brother said about work around the house, and I agree. Not everyone is that skilled. I do a lot of work around the house, electrical, plumbing, mechanics. I did mechanics, so I fix cars and stuff. But I would encourage anyone, do what you can. Put in to yourself, not to everyone else that's wanting to get your money out of your pocket. We moved fast when Miriam joined me. We also was a owner with my dad with a property in Scarborough. My dad passed, it flipped over to me. Good when you have both names, no issue with that. Present the death certificate and it's yours. And I can share later on anytime just to give anybody any help, what I've been through. And we sold both properties, gave us the funds to move on to our first townhome, brand new. We spent a short time, if a year and a half in that. We flipped that. We went to a detached home in Oshawa. And we kept that for a short period, again, in the crazy market, as you all knew at the time. Just around when they got rid of Stephen Harper, we sold again. And this time we rented in Markham and waited for the one that we're living in right now. And just to quick and wrap it up, we are on the move again. We are purchasing in the process again on Young Street up in Aurora, Newmarket. But I just want to say, you know what? In everything, to God be the glory, because we both had debt. We were able to pay off those debts with a lot of what we did with the homes. It was a deal with the bank as well that these debts would have to be paid up. You know, the debt to income ratio, that they're not going to finance you. So we agreed. We've done it several times. We've paid off cars. So the advice really is to, I hear about people saying saving and budgeting. You can't budget for what you don't have. You can't save when you're in debt.
That's true.
It's hard to save when you're in debt. So really what you have to do, and that's what we sat down and we said, listen, it's no sense. And there were times where we could carry a debt and make payments on it and save because we had money to do that. But it's like, what's the sense? You're carrying 30, 50, whatever amount, thousands of dollars debt, and you're trying to save. Then if you save 60,000 and you're 50,000 in debt, you only have 10,000.
10,000, right.
So let's just go down to 10,000 and know that that's what we have. So we paid out the debts, done it before. We were able to switch cars and pay out the cars and that. And then we upgraded the cars again. And we're going to do it again and just pay it out. But all I'm saying, there's a book. And I have it in the house, and I think I've said it recently. We practice the book more than we have read the book. And the book is probably old, called Smart Couple Finish Rich. We're not rich, like my brother says. We're not rich. But thank God, we have food, we have shelter, we can take care of ourselves during this time. Sometimes I say to Miriam, I don't want to share. We shouldn't share because there are people who are struggling. But I've had my struggle. I've had my 2008 times. I've had times where I almost was living nowhere, and at that time owning 2 homes and living nowhere because they're rented out, right? And starting a job, and I was the one who put up suck, salt, and tie your belt because I know what it is, right? I go to work, I would take mixed juice and crackers and maybe sardine and tin mackerel, right? Just to survive, right? Barely can put gas in the car. So if I give any advices for myself and for anyone, learn to sacrifice, learn to put off the today for tomorrow. One person says, live like nobody else, that one day you can live like nobody else. There were times where I was ready to live in my car. Miriam stayed in Maryland, US, and said, no, that's not happening. And she booked a hotel for me. I spent the night and went for my interview the next day, and I got a job, right? I was living like nobody else. I was almost homeless, almost claimed bankruptcy, living like nobody else. Today, we're living like nobody else. We're living different from that. So again, if at any time I'm willing to share this, I said to Miriam, this is something I'm willing to share. I'm willing to give to any young person, anyone who want to know even deeper my story and what we've been through, what I've been through, and show you how you can be successful and not say be rich, but as God says, your needs will be supplied. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Brother Warren. So that's another another way in helping you and your finances, and that is through your real estate. And Jane Ropp also said the same thing, but in another way, you can't save what you don't have. Getting rid of debt is a good strategy, a good first strategy. She also says one of the things to consider is also real estate planning, which can help minimize taxes after death. Okay. Thank you so much for participating, everyone. That was excellent. That was an excellent discussion. I was going to chime in on that too, but I think we've all gotten the point. God is truly amazing. And whatever it is, whatever the little we have, he is able to multiply that and bless us. And we limit God when we don't put our total trust in him, and when we put a cap on what it is that we believe that he's able to do. So thank you for that. Thank you for the testimonies, and for blessing all our listeners. I want to welcome you again, those who are just joining. Thank you for joining. Also, to those who have friends and families that may benefit from this discussion, you are also able to watch this on YouTube and Facebook. I was told we are trying something new. So please go ahead and look for us, Apple Creek SDA Church, on those platforms. Thank you. Okay, so what are some of the solutions? Do we have any other solutions that we could offer for our friends and family that are encountering challenges, financial challenges? So we've listed a number of them. Are we missing any other one before we move on? And I know we're going to be touching it in another couple of minutes. But if you have anything.
Yes, I have something. I'm a believer that, as the Bible says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. A lot of times we are in some of these situations because we don't have the information. And sometimes I find even within ourselves, we don't share information. So an individual may be unemployed at the moment, and individuals have information and they don't share. I'm going to share some things that you may know or you may not know. The provincial government actually hires summer students to perform different tasks, and they already started the application process. I think it was January 4th. They continue to do that. And the information, you just go to gojobs.gov.ontario.ca and look for summer employment program. And it starts for individuals who are 15 years and up.
And actually, for that, Sister Carleen, too, there are companies that partner with the government to employ these staff.
Exactly.
These young people. And it's great for career building, too, and to help them to get a better sense when they're applying for university, what programs to enter. Because, sometimes we go into university, we start and we're kind of like, okay, so I'm just going to feel around, see if I like this. And it's not to say that you won't encounter that, but these jobs earlier not only help with income, but they help you to see the actual working world of what the particular profession or business you're trying to get into.
And also, they also have a program for newly graduates. There's a internship program, and it's 2 years. And once you finish that, they actually put you into a real job. A permanent job. For individuals who are looking for other types of jobs, there's also a company called Charity Village. They're for nonprofit. But they also, if you're looking for volunteer work experience, or you're looking to get into different job streams, that's one stream. There's also another company called Career Edge. They offer internship opportunities for individuals, And whether you're a new immigrant or you're a young person that's newly graduated from university, Career Edge provides internship opportunities. They're paid. They don't pay you a lot, but they pay you something. And it's with some of the top companies in Ontario, and some of it leads into permanent opportunities. If you don't if you're having difficulty finding a job, tell individuals in your circle what kind of job you're looking for, and some of us have contacts in different areas that we can help. I have contacts with individuals that and people give me information sometimes that I wonder, why are they telling me this? Because it's not for me, but I take it in, and ultimately I come across somebody that needs it. Also, volunteer work is an awesome way of gaining experience. Like, even while you're looking to work, you could look into doing some volunteer work, because it diminishes the gap in your resume, because employers look at the gap in your resume and wonder, what have you been doing, right? So there are opportunities to do that as well. So I just thought I'd throw those out there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, with a resounding, and I hope we're all in one accord, is it ever too late to start then financial planning? No, it's never too late. It's never too late. Yes, and I think we've made that abundantly clear. So the next question is, actually, we do have one, and I'm going to cover it now from the chat. 1 second. Can someone comment on debt consolidation and any pitfalls in using this plan for debt repayment? So we actually did touch on that a little bit from the testimony from Brother Warren. Brother Marlon Warren. We did touch on that. Does anybody else have anything else to say? So this is this person is requesting comments on debt consolidation and any pitfalls in using this plan for debt repayment. I think one of the things that you want to be mindful of is, for example, if you know you're going to be retiring, it's all well and good that you want to clear your debt. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if you are retiring and you are trying to use your home to consolidate your debt, for example, just backtracking to homes, if you want to use your home to consolidate your debt, that's probably not the best idea, because that will prolong your mortgage, right? And if you refinance, like after you do the refinance, after you consolidate, your payments may be higher. So just keep that in mind. You'll keep the mortgage for longer, and your payments may be higher. So does anybody else have anything else to comment? Can someone comment on debt consolidation and any pitfalls in using this plan for debt repayment? So this doesn't have to do necessarily with real estate, but general debt consolidation.
Okay, I'm not an expert by any means, so I hope somebody else will chime in. I've done debt consolidation when I had, I think I was coming out of university, but I don't really remember exactly when. So debt consolidation is good and it can help, but again, it goes back to the discipline. You can consolidate your debt, but if you're still going to be using credit cards and using everything that you had taken off to consolidate, then you're back at square one. Yeah. So you have to be really mindful of your plan, sticking to your budget and saying, okay, I'm going to consolidate this debt. And I hope I'm talking about what everybody else is talking about, because that's what I understand debt consolidation to be at the time that I did. So I consolidated all the debt into one payment, and I focused on paying on that. And I would fall off the bandwagon and start using my credit cards again. And then I have to remind myself that was the reason why I did debt consolidation in the first place, so I don't rack up debt again somewhere else. So I think it's great. But if you know, I guess it also comes to you knowing yourself. Like if you know that you're still going to use debt elsewhere, then it might not be the best plan. So you need to be really honest with yourself when going into these things, because you could put yourself in hotter water than you were before had you not consolidated. The consolidation is good, but you have to stick to the plan.
Absolutely.
And also another part of consolidating debt that people sometimes use is bankruptcy. Bankruptcy can affect the person's credit for a longer period of time than individuals think, and they go after everything that a person has. So individuals may think that, oh, I have a car or whatever. They may not touch that, but they can go after your savings. Yeah, they can go after a lot of things. So bankruptcy
Right.
may seem like a good move, but it can be very costly now and in the future.
Excellent. Very true. Okay. Someone was telling me, actually, yeah, my mom was telling me, she said, when someone comes into her, because she's in finance, when somebody comes into her with bankruptcy, it's very hard to get anything, to get any loan, to get any mortgage, and it's almost a chain around your ankle for about 7 years. It's actually worse than having bad credit, right? So just keep that in mind when you're thinking of doing bankruptcy. Actually, I just want to jump back before we continue the conversation. We have a testimony here about using My Career Edge. This individual had an internship that is just about for 6 months, and he's about to go full time in it. So we know that these resources work. They may not fast track you to where you want to be, but it's definitely a great starting point and a solution to employment issues and to get work experience. So we thank God for that. These resources are working and we are happy to share them. Sister Carlene has put some resources for gojobs.gov and Charity Village into the chat. Please, if you need them, take them and use them and share them with your friends. Another thing too is that if you have jobs in your organization that you feel that others in your church community can benefit from, I do encourage you to share them among your circle, share them in your church, because there are people here that are looking for work or that are may not be unemployed, but they're looking to move on in their careers. And yeah, there are jobs that are available and people don't even know because they're either not posted or these jobs are they just have not come up in the person's search.
And also, can I add one more thing? Individuals that are students within the different companies that your parents or even your grandparents may have worked often offer scholarships, and sometimes we're part of associations. Sometimes those associations offer scholarships. So that's another source of helping with funds for school.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. So anything else did you want to add to some solutions we would offer for these challenges? Sorry. Yes. Some solutions we would want to add for those who may be struggling. Anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
Jessica, this is Jewel here. I'd like to suggest a resource. It's called the Credit Counseling Society of Canada. They really do really great workshops. They come in to CAMH staff and they offer workshop. Like last week I went to one on all the list of things you need to document so that if anything happens to you, how your relatives can find it. So I think for the person that posed the question about debt management, I think it would be really good to check out the Credit Counseling Society of Canada, because they look at the pros and cons of different debt management programs. So you know that if you go this route, this is how it's going to impact your credit and for how long. So I think it's a really great resource to check out.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I did put that down in the chat as well. Credit Counseling Society of Canada. Elder Andrew says summer employment is very valuable for building experience, even if you're junior in your career. Okay. Corporate maturity and skill development is valuable, especially for students and those new to the job market. Okay.
One thing
Thank you so
I'd like
much.
to- One
Yeah.
thing I'd like to add is on the student job scenario, there's a lot happening, certainly in the Black community, but also in the BIPOC community and in the large corporations trying to put a dent into systemic racism. And so there is a lot of focus being put on hiring, whether outright or through these summer jobs for Black and Indigenous and people of color and such. And so try to be aware of that and put yourself in the game to try to register to get in motion in where the recruitment of these jobs come through. And something to keep in mind as well, when you're looking for summer work, the time to look for summer work is not April or May because the cycle has passed. I can certainly say from where I work, when we start looking for summer students, that starts in January. And so you got to start early to be ready to take on the opportunities as they present themselves in May and June. But there is a lot out there, and that's a great way to get your foot in the door in some of these organizations, and then with the potential of getting full-time employment down the road.
Great. Excellent. So timing is important. Start early. Okay. Okay. So I need some help from everyone. And I want everyone to tell me from their personal as well as career or professional background or standpoint, what are some secrets to your financial success? What are your secrets to your financial success? I think first and foremost, I mean, my faith. Honestly, it really just starts there. It starts with, first of all, being, as we talked about multiple times, is being faithful with your tithing, as well as being prudent or being careful to seek God for your next move or your next or making those steps towards your next goal. Yeah, and make a plan. Make a plan. And this is not your goal setting as you move along in your life. You'll find that making a goal now does not mean that that goal may still be the same 10 years down the line, or maybe the steps to achieving a certain goal may have to be adjusted or reassessed every couple of months to make sure that you're on target or whatever the case is. So, you know, just be realistic, be faithful, and trust God with everything that you have to set out for your finances.
I think financial success is a very strong word. So
Right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I'll say all that.
How to be rich.
I think
go ahead.
Not financially savvy. Okay. It was getting in touch with a financial advisor that definitely set me up well, because I guess it's again, Sister Carleen had mentioned, it's the lack of knowledge. There's so much out there, so much that I didn't know, so much about investing that I didn't understand, that I really still kind of don't understand, but I trust my advisor to say, and I see the money return and I'm like, all right, that makes sense. So there's just so much, even starting early, if just putting down a little, and then have it mature so nicely. So that's been my my road to financial success. Definitely not there yet. And of course, continuous career advancement helps with, increasing income, which has been also my goal for the past couple of years. So that's been my two things: having a financial advisor that set me up and put my finances into a spot that allowed me to have certain achievements, and then continuous career advancement.
Also, in talking about financial success, there is a formula actually that individuals in the financial industry use that it impacts your money. It's called the rule of 72. I don't know if anybody has heard of it, but what it is that Einstein came up with this mathematical formula, and he says that every 72 years, that's how long it takes for your money to double. So if you're putting your money away, and you don't know where to put it, or you think you're putting it someplace and you think it's growing, if you don't know this, then it's impacting how your money is growing. So how the formula works is that you take the 72 and you divide it by the percentage of interest that you're getting, and it tells you how many years it will take your money to grow, to double. So if you're, for instance, we're getting 4%, which most banks don't give you 4%, it would take you 18 years for your money to double. So if you started off with $10,000, when you get to age 65, your money would be basically 40,000. I'm going to jump ahead, and if the bank was giving you 12% interest, which they never will do that, it would take you 6 years for your money to double. So this compounding interest has a lot to do with how fast your money grow. And so if you take that same 10,000 and you were getting 12% interest, when you get to age 65, it will be $640,000. But that doesn't happen with the bank. What you didn't know is that when you give the bank $10,000, they can go to the Bank of Canada and say, give me 6 times that amount. So then the Bank of Canada takes your, like for instance, say the CIBC takes your $10,000, go to the Bank of Canada, they get 6 times that amount. So now your money to them becomes $70,000. And what do? They go and they invest it, not to your benefit, to their benefit, and they're getting like 12% interest. And then they come back to you and they say, oh, Miss Lady A, I would like to offer you a tax-free savings account at 1%. Oh, Miss Lady A, I'd like to offer you a credit card at 16%. And in the meantime, your money that they've took is doubling, and that's why at the end of the year they can post that they've made a profit of whatever amount of money. There's also something else that helps you to understand, how your money can grow. There's something called a wealth formula that they use as well. And basically you have your money and you have time. And as we said before, the younger you start, the less that you may need to put away. And because you have time, you have lots of time to invest. And you'll have your family and you buy a house and all those things. As you get older, you have less time because now you're thinking of retirement. So your needs change. So I just told you about the rate of return and how that impacts your money. But did you know there's something called inflation? Inflation basically means the rise in cost of goods over time. So inflation, we also call it a silent killer. So your money is actually dying on you. In the meantime, not to depress anybody, but if the inflation rate is say 3.5% and you have $100, it actually is only valued at $96.50.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we can look back and say, oh, when my grandparents was around in the 70s or whatever, they could buy a house for $23,000. That same house in 2013 is like $289,000. And of course, now forget it. You're not going to be able to buy a house at that price. That's the impact of inflation. You could buy a bread back then for 23 cents. 2013 will be like $1.98. So if time is a factor in your money growing, the rate of return is a factor. And if 3.5% is the inflation rate, there's also tax. So if you don't know where to put your money, just you putting it into a tax-free savings account, you're actually losing money at the end of the day. And there's also people like to put money away in RSPs. RSPs is a good vehicle, but at the same time, you're going to be taxed on it later. So you need to know where to put your money, why to put your money. There, as we mentioned before, there are tax advantage areas where you can put your money. And one of them, as we mentioned, is when you buy a house. Your house as your primary residence, you don't get taxed on it. But of course, you see when you do your taxes, the government is asking you, what's your primary residence? And you can have a summer home that they don't charge you tax on, but the amount that is valued at is determines a lot of things. So, and of course, we mentioned life insurance. Those are vehicles where you never get taxed on. So when you're putting away money, you need to know where you're going to be taxed now, where you're going to be taxed later, and where you'll be taxed never. Everything that you can put like a beneficiary to, that's always good in part of your estate planning as well.
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you. That's a wealth of information that we'll probably have to circle again at some point. So stay tuned for that. We have, I just have we have a short space of time left, but do you have something to say, Wayne? And then we'll go to the chat and hand raise.
Yeah, very quickly, since Sister Carlene was talking about mutual funds in that her comments, mutual funds are a vehicle as well, but there's something that's been picking up a lot of interest lately, and it's something to consider. It's exchange traded funds, and so the benefit with exchange traded funds versus mutual funds is that the management expense ratio is far less than a mutual fund. And so sometimes what happens with mutual funds is over time compounding the MER, as it's called, is taking away from your rate of return. Whereas in the case of exchange traded funds, it might be 0.4% that you're being charged on the management of that fund versus a mutual fund that might be 2.1%. And so you look at the compounding difference over time, and you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. So just wanted to, while we're on that topic, if you have time in your spare time, ask an advisor or do some research on what those are, because there are some benefits to going that route.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Wayne. Okay, so Beverly G, we do see your question in the chat. So let's round up this conversation and then we'll jump back to answering your question. So stay tuned for that. Brother Warren, you have your hand raised. Did you want to add something to the conversation?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to the question you asked, how to help you to be financially successful. I want to say this humbly. Thanks be to God. My family, as I said before, we're not rich. We're financially successful. I want to say that because from where I'm coming from, I'm financially successful. And some of the things I want to share, Carlene is the expert. She's sharing some valid information. I remember educating ourselves on what Carlene is saying and about the banks. I'm sharing with you personally how I have, and my wife and my kids, I'm teaching them as well, how to be successful financially. Banks are not your best friend in some sense. So when it comes to mortgage, if you can get the bank to loan you money, that's a good thing. So what I didn't know when I came to Canada, new to Canada, not understanding credit, not understanding Equifax and TransUnion and checking your credit and knowing what is your rating and the power of your having a credit. So I lately call these three things what you have in your possession. You have an income, a job, you have an income, and you have a credit. And then I think the third thing is you have any kind of assets. Remember when we had no assets, my wife only had an income. The saying is no credit is just as bad credit, right? So my wife came back to Canada from Quebec, but it's as if she never lived in Canada, like she's a newcomer. Scotiabank wasn't looking at her to get a mortgage. And finally, CIBC said, go and look for what you want. She found the house, the bank was good, CIBC gave us the mortgage, right? My credit was crashed because I didn't know how to deal with my credit and how to have a good credit rating. So I'm not an expert, but I've had my experience and I know family and friends. I'm sharing this and I put it in the chat. I am willing at any time, personally, anytime to share with anyone. The key things are a little education goes a long way. So I used to educate myself on how to be successful financially. But at the time, I had no means of taking advantage of what I was learning. But I used to listen to back then WDCX, and the guy was, I believe, Larry Burkett. I think he passed away. Then another guy took it over. So I educated myself. Again, the banks are good because we just dealt with the bank and they approve our mortgage. And somebody said something about mortgages today, and I kind of said that myself too, but I want to say this, don't be scared. $1 million used to scare me. Homes are averaging now, townhomes are clocking $8, $9, $1 million, right? And just to share with everyone, find out we use the term, what's your niche? What's your family blessing? What has God placed in your family? What is it that you're gifted with? Find that and use it. Our message today was find your gift. If you have one talent, find that talent and use it. Don't worry about the person who has 5. You take your one and you use it. Yeah. I figured out that in my family, till this day, what's been going for them and what caused them to be successful is land, property, owning estates, owning land. My grandfather, and for those who understand the Jamaican patois language, said to me, Marlon, own a piece of dirty, own a piece of land, ownership, own something. Even if you haven't paid for it fully and you own it outright, you own it with the bank, go for ownership. Prepare yourself by getting your credit to the level. We have excellent credit now, right? But before it wasn't like that. But get your credit rating up. So advise ways to be successful. Jobs, stick to what you have. No matter how small it is, no matter how little it is, stick to it. Hold it out, stay in it. Again, we heard you guys talking about gaps in your resume, right? Another reason why you want to stick to what you have, right? And go the course of whatever may seem to be low income. It's not how much you make, it's what you do with what you make, right? So again, I think the best advice I have is educate yourself. Like young men like, what's his name? Joel's son, right? Yeah. Educate yourself, yeah. And use that to your advantage. Use it to help you to better yourself. Maybe you're better off with an advisor. Get an advisor. I have an advisor. I've had advisors. I have people who deal with my taxes, and these things can work in many ways. RRSP can work for you for first-time home buyers. I took advantage of that. We use that to get better tax returns, using the lower income and the higher income in ways that can benefit you, right? Put things towards the lower income. So there's a lot of information. I just want to wrap up this way. Please let this discussion just don't be something that we talk about. Let it help us all. Let us benefit those who are struggling, those who've been at places like myself. Let's share with them. Thank you for tolerating me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marlon. Excellent. Thank you. These comments are great. Elder Andrew says, knowledge, start regardless of how small, follow through, and if you falter, start again. You will make farther than you did before. And that is true. I mean, this financial thing it's a journey. It's not a destination. Anything can happen that can throw you off of your path, that could deplete some of the funds that you have put away, or or whatever the case is. So it's definitely something that, and obviously the information is changing as we go along, as well as the government is also there to support you, as was mentioned before, and they have far more resources that we hope to be bringing to you over time this year in 2021. Okay, Carlene says, have free workshop. Oh, she has free workshops. Oh, have free workshops. Contact me. Increase cash flow and debt management, building a strong financial foundation, building wealth and asset accumulation, retirement and education planning, estate preservation, and wealth transfer. So there's so many, there's so much that we don't have time because we're about to wrap up, but I wanted to get back. So thank you so much. And just to let everybody know, this program, this discussion will be saved on the Apple Creek website. So if you missed a portion of it or you would want to refer to some of the information, please, by all means, you can head there to watch again. Just going back up to the question, I'm just trying to find it. Sorry, I have to go slow, sorry. Oh. Okay, this is back to our previous discussion about opportunities for jobs. What outlet or opportunity is there for young people who have been in trouble with the law but are okay now? Right, so we know that that people feel as though that there is a stigma, and rightly so, because they do experience that for individuals who have had trouble in the past. And, as Christians, we believe in forgiveness and giving them a second chance. But unfortunately, sometimes the world isn't as kind. But we do know that there are opportunities out there for them. So if there's anyone here that have experience with that or know what is available to them, please let us know in this conversation. And perhaps at the end of this, if possible, we could have a conversation with the individual who has asked, if that is personal to her, right? So yeah, go ahead.
I can certainly say, and I thank you for that question. I think that's very important, certainly in our community. I can't say that I know of the organizations, but I certainly know how corporations and like this work, right? And so what I would say is finding out what types of organizations specialize in helping folks who have been in this scenario get on the right path, because large corporations tend to partner with other institutions, whether it be Black institutions in the community or religious organizations or whatever the case may be. And so if you get partnered up with one of these organizations that help you get on that right path, then when corporations or places of business are looking for talent or people to bring into work, these are the places that they go, right? And so if you get connected with the that help these people, then at least you're a part of the pool when people start looking to bring in people into organization. Great question. I wish I had some names of these types of organizations to share, but that's the place I'd say to start.
Great. Anyone else? No? Okay, we have one, and we're gonna wrap this thing up really quickly. Wayne, you also mentioned in the chat, banks are your friend. They do a lot of great things in the community and help people reach their goals. You just need to know how they work and take advantage of the products and services they have. And you can go to a financial advisor or a banking advisor at any of the banks and find someone who does not know everything that the bank has to offer. So don't stop at just one person, because there are a lot of resources that the banks have. They don't all hate us. And they are probably sometimes your starting point to at least becoming more financially literate, and to help you in all of these other areas. Their websites usually have a plethora of information that it may be a little bit stressful to digest, but it's also somewhere that you could start to get to know the bank or the financial institutions that you may want to start your business, your personal financial business with. Okay. One of the questions that I wanted to just interject and make sure that we cover that, we're talking about our financial planning, and we have young people who were interested in finding out about investing and saving. We did touch on that earlier in the program, but I wanted to ask about that again, specifically as it relates to young people and how they can get into saving and investing, and if it's even for them, and the banks that they choose. Just quickly, because we only have a few more minutes. So, I mean, for everyone here, I mean, for me, I'm not typically one who jumps around to multiple financial institutions. There is merit in building a relationship, and it's not to say that you can't have one or more than one, because I have more than one. Having worked in different financial institutions, I have had to open accounts with them, and it ended up being to my benefit because I learned more about them. But when it comes to selecting a bank, there are multiple things that you want to keep in mind. You want to, even something as simple or as important to you as core values for that institution. You want to look at their fees. You want to look at the interest rates that they may offer you, even though that you may not invest all your money with them. It's also important. Most FIs, financial institutions, are governed by the same body, the same government body, but they have slight differences that may be favorable to you. So you want to keep that in mind as well. I do think that there is merit in building a relationship with one financial institution, and that is because when they are looking to help you along your financial ways, your plans, buying a home even, and getting a loan, a home line plan, or any kind of credit for that matter, anything that you're asking them to make concessions for you on, it helps that you have a relationship with them. And what that means is, you don't just have a checking account that you buy Tim Hortons with. They want to see that you have money coming into that account on a regular basis. So that could be your income. Or do you have a savings account? When they ask you to, when they give you a pre-approved credit card, you want to take that and use it responsibly, because using it responsibly will help them, as well as, your credit report, to build a profile, a solid, healthy profile for them to recognize you as somebody who has business with you. You want to think about even having more than just a savings. Sister Carlene talked about maybe a tax-free savings may not earn you a lot, but seeing that you have all of these packages, all of these, it's almost like a bundle. That you have all of these things with them, you have all of this relationship with them, they will now think that A, you're financially responsible, B, you are using the services of the financial institution, and C, they'll also think about when they're offering things to you, or when you're asking them to make concessions for you, if at all possible, that you are not a fly by night that might disappear tomorrow because you only have a checking account. You know what I mean? So these are all of the things that you want to keep in mind when you are when you're thinking about starting a relationship with a bank. And it doesn't matter what it is, it just has to fit your lifestyle. I have a friend who pretty much doesn't care about any of the big five banks. She doesn't care about those accounts. She wants to use the ones that are online because she gets less fees against her account. So, you just want to do something, choose options that make sense for your lifestyle. Does anybody else have anything else to add? I said a mouthful. Garfield in the chat says, online banks may be worth looking into as well. They can be subsidiaries of the big banks, but their fees are lower, non-existent, and their interest rates are higher. And also, I should interject that people may not know much about credit unions. They operate the same as banks. Other than that, they are the people who have bank accounts with them. They are part owners of the company, so they have a say in how the business is run, how the banks are run. And to be honest with you, having worked there, having had family members that have worked there and have accounts with them, they actually are. Sometimes they can have lower rates, not all the time. For like mortgages and all of that, and better investment rates. But in a way, you're kind of treated better because you're considered a member. So just keep that in mind. There are online credit unions, big banks, small ones, all of that. Sister Carlene said we can find out and provide information. And that has to do with the banks. Am I correct, Sister Carlene?
No, that has to do with the question about the person that asked about opportunities for individuals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, opportunities for individuals.
Yeah, the previous.
Okay, have issues with the law, have had issues with the law.
Jess, can I say one thing in regards to the youth? What I can say, and from personal experience, and we've said it more than once, start, especially when you're young. That is the best time. Sister Carlene spoke about time is your friend at that point in time, because you have so much time for things to grow that you don't even have to be putting a lot for the time when you need it will matter. I wish I had started like when I started into my full-time position when I was 22. If I had started the serious financial planning I started when I was, I can't remember, maybe 26, I'd have been in such a better position. I don't even like thinking about it because I would have had so much more. When I was buying my home, I would have picked up the litter if I had started at that time, but you can't dwell on spilled milk. The point is you need to just start. I tell all my young friends that are getting out of school and whatever, I'm like, focus on paying off your debts and putting up money. You will still be able to have all the fun. I had great times. I was traveling. I was having a great time. So I won't say I regret a lot of it, but there is a time and place and seasons for things. And I wasn't season part. I was doing just the having fun part. And then when you got older, now you're like, maybe I had too much fun, So you just need to start. Even if I had started little and was still doing all the traveling and everything else that I did that I really enjoyed, and I don't take those back, those were great experiences, I would have still had something more to work with. So whether it is you're going to see a financial advisor, I prefer seeing a financial advisor because it worked for me. So that's my bias and my opinion on it, because it helped me so much. If I had not had a financial advisor, it would have been still probably a mess when my finances were, because it made me understand so much and helped me with the discipline, because a lot of it was discipline. But because I wasn't really of the money coming out, was automatic, right? It's just, this is where your money is going to go, and you just work with what you have left. So that was, for me, that was important. So you have to figure out for yourself how you have to be honest with yourself. Or do you have enough discipline to put money away on your own? No? Okay, then you need to find some way that it's put away for you, because you still need to get that done. So that's my experience. I loved having a financial advisor. I wish I would have been introduced sooner, but I wasn't. Oh, well, you start. So it doesn't matter what. I won't say it doesn't matter. It does matter, but the point is just to start. Whether it's going to be a bank, whether it's going to be a financial advisor, whether it's going to be putting it under your mattress. I don't care what it is, but you do have to just start somewhere, because that's going to be the important part. Not just thinking about it, just start doing something, especially when you're going to make so much of a difference. When you're ready to really reap those benefits, you're not going to regret it. So the point is start. Find something and start.
And this is from
I totally agree with.
This is from my friend who wants to retire at 40. All right, she's speaking from experience.
I'm very serious about that. I'm very serious about that.
Yeah, so she should have started, because 40 is around the corner. Okay.
It's possible.
That's
I just wanted to add one thing to what Sister Jody said, because of what I've been seeing. My ultimate goal is to educate families in their finances, which was one of my goals here today. And to be honest, I work with the 5 major banks and over 35 plus different product providers. And one of the things that resonate is that even with one of them, I remember them saying they've come across a lot of Seventh-day Adventists who are good at returning their tithe, but we're poor money managers. We're poor with the other 90% of what God has given us. And I think some of it is lack of knowledge and some of it is fear. And the way to alleviate it is to educate ourselves. And people of Caucasian people, they're really good at transferring wealth to their young people, and us as Black people, we are really poor at doing that. And I want to revolutionize that within our churches to get individuals to shift their mindset. And to as Sister Jody said, the key is to start when you're young, and even when you're old, it's not too late. But start.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So we have wound down to the end of our program. I just want to thank everybody for participating and for taking the time to join our call today. Thank you. Thank you for all of your comments and all of your questions, your testimonies. It's been great. It's excellent. And I want to get everyone, all of our panelists here, if you have a charge or a challenge that you wanted to leave with our viewers, what would it be?
Okay.
Right?
Can I start?
Yeah.
I listen and I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed with the knowledge of everybody who came on and have expressed themselves. You know, I mean, it's so good. And they're very, very highfalutin, and we're up there in the stratosphere. I'm sure everybody who came on, who listened, must be impressed by the knowledge and the testimonies and everything that came. But there's one thing that after he listened to all of that, this sounds very humble and very quaint, with all that, all of the expressions made. Something that we must not forget. In our quest for financial independence and to be, I don't want to use the word rich, but to have a fluidity, we must be of help to people. We must be kind however we can be. I don't mean giving away money. Give of yourself to others. I know a lot of people in our church and even in the community who, knowing a little bit about their finances, should be considered poor, but they're not. One of the key things about them is that they do not hold back from helping those who are in need. Absolutely. And the Bible cannot lie. The Bible cannot lie, because it says, cast your bread upon the waters and you will find it after many days. So in all of the plans that we have and in everything that we do physically of ourselves, we can't eliminate the element of God. Because while he's giving you wisdom to do all of these things that we're planning to do, he's also asking you to partner with him, as well as love your brother as you love God too. Service to God and service to man. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else has a final charge or challenge to our listeners?
I have a final challenge. I at the end of the year, I looked at myself and I said to God, I want to make some changes. And then this idea came out into my head. We know to return the 10% of our tithes and our offering, but what do we do with the 90%? And this is called the 90% challenge. Starting right now, seek to develop a more personal, deeper relationship with Jesus. Read his word more and apply it to our lives. Seek God moment by moment and give yourself to him. Everything you were, everything you are, and everything you will be. Because we're talking about stewardship. It's not about finance alone. It's everything. It's easy. It may seem it will not be easy, because we know our adversary, the devil, is out to get us, and he will throw things in your way. Things that you never had problems with, you will have. But by the grace of God, we know that God doesn't lie. His word will not return to him void. He'll accomplish that which he intended. That's Isaiah 55 verse 11. He doesn't change. His promises are true and sure. Don't look at what other people have or don't have. Look at what God desires for you to have and to do, and ask the Holy Spirit through prayer and fasting to give us the fruit of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. When the Holy Spirit is indwelling in us and we have these characteristics, we will be more generous. We will have, the Lord doesn't want us to be a lack of anything. So the challenge is about growing our faith, being obedient, and allowing God to stretch our imagination too. Right? When I looked at Malachi 3 verse 9, we always quote that. But did you look at the key word there? Says he'll open the windows of heaven. You know where that text first came from? It was from actually Genesis 7 verse 11, where God opened the windows of heaven and poured out all the water and it flooded the earth. That's how much he wants to pour out his blessing on us. And so here, when God opened the windows of heaven and he promised, his promise is true, we know that he will do it. And so that is my challenge for us, that we will develop a closer relationship with God so that he can truly multiply the 90% that he gave us, bigger than, I mean, when you look up into the heavens, bigger than what you're looking up at. He will make it huge. So I'm looking forward to hearing what individuals will share with us about their 90% challenge.
Very good.
My charge, I guess I'd say, is, it all starts with our relationship with God, right? The character, the constant desire to grow and to become more like him every day. That then gives us the character so we don't get caught up in materialism and start blowing away and not being the good stewards of our time, our talent, and our finances, right? And so what comes to mind to me is the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, where God gave, there's three folks that were given talents, and those who invested or made more of what they had were rewarded, and the one who didn't was admonished. And so you think of it from that standpoint, the 90% from a financial standpoint that we have, it's expected of us to do things with it and to grow it, right? And so, as Andrew said in the chat, you got to start somewhere. And so my charge is for us to start and to grow that, not grow it only for financial gain of ourselves, but like Elder Max said, for the community, for your community, making sure we help. But it's key for us to start somewhere, wherever you are, so that next year at this time, you look back, you can say you're further along than you would have been if you hadn't.
Excellent. Thank you. That's great. I want to cut Jody, but if you don't have anything to say, that's okay. But
everybody kind of said it all. What my charge again would have been is to start, of course, building that relationship with God, increasing your faith, because that has a lot to do with everything. Is a faith, and you'll see that it comes into when you're making plans, because again, you can make all the plans you want. If God is not the center of it, it's just going to fall. It's going to be like the house built upon the sand. So, when you're making your plans, remember that God is in the center of it, whether it's financial or not. It is this, your outlook should be the same. Your main goal should be the same. We are, again, just passing through this life, and our goal is to have our rewards in heaven.
Excellent. And, just in keeping with, everyone and what we've said today, is that it's God who gives men power to get wealth.
Amen.
he giveth, I think about Acts 17, verse 25, where it says, he giveth to all life and breath and all things. And I think Psalm 50, verse 10 says, every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle on 1,000 hills. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine. And that's Haggai 2, verse 8. So, you know, I agree with everyone. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Yeah.
And God has shown us this in his word, right?
Yeah.
It all starts with faith. And it is possible to be prudent users of that 90%, the resources that God has given us. This case, our money. So my charge, I guess, for you would align with God's promise to us from Proverbs 16, verse 3, where it says, commit your works to the Lord and your plans will be established. It's in his leading that we will get better at managing our money, helping others with it, and supporting our church in 2021, this year and beyond.
Amen.
Okay? So in the coming weeks, we plan to have more related content available to you through our church online platforms. And of course, the stewardship team and any of these individuals here, as well as individuals who have contributed tonight, I'm sure they are more than happy to answer any questions or provide support should you need it. We have stewardship experts, spiritual guides, financial advisors, and financial educators on hand in our department and beyond, in our church even. So basically, this conversation is not over. This is just a springboard. And so we thank you again for our panelists. And we thank you again for participating tonight. So I bid for you a blessed, happy week, a blessed evening. Thanks again for participating. And that's it. So I want to ask somebody to pray. Who wants to pray for me and for all of us? You can just volunteer and we'll just close off right here.
I'll nominate Brother Queensborough.
Certainly. How could I refuse? Bow your heads with me, everyone, please, and close your eyes. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to spend this time with you to talk about the stewardship, all the talents you've given us, time, talents, and our finances in particular today, Lord. As we've had this discussion and we've learned so much, I pray that you help us to action this, Lord. Help to remove some of the fear of taking chances, Lord. Help us to just understand that you want the best for us and you have great plans for us, Lord. And so in all of this, we'd be remiss to focus on the wealth without focusing on the relationship with you, Lord. So help us to have our relationships right with you. Help us to continually commune with your Holy Spirit so you could truly guide us in all of our actions so that, as we look forward a month from now, we are more close to you and move your mission more forward, Lord. As we depart now, Heavenly Father, I ask that you go with us all and keep us bounded together in your love. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of evening. Thanks for sticking around with us, and have a blessed week.